And welcome back, everyone, to another Pivot podcast. My name is Tracy. So glad you could be with us. And I am again joined by my amazing co-host, Mr. Dan Jansen. How are you doing?
I just can't keep believing you keep me coming back every week. So I'm excited to be here. And this is the last episode of the 4-part series that we have for Mike Pickett's coaching session that we did with him. So if you guys have not caught this, I'm going to say this in the beginning of the episode, but if you have not caught the previous 3, you guys can check the links below and be able to re-listen to those at any time as well. But this episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the power and importance of trading communities, what that means to people, why it's important. Also, we're going to dive into stock prices and information overload for beginners. As we all know, there's a ton of information, a wealth of knowledge out there. And how do you really focus on what fits you? So we're going to dive deeper into that on this episode as well.
Absolutely. So let's get into part 4. See you there.
How important is, and I hear it mentioned a lot in the training, but the Slack, if I'm saying it right. Did I lose you on that, or do you want to talk about being part of Slack?
Yeah, no, 100%. So for people not familiar, so Slack is a third-party tool. It's actually owned by CRM, which is Salesforce. They bought it a couple months ago, whatever the case. I said this today in the live trading room, and I hope Slack people don't get mad at me, but Slack is the tool itself is completely worthless. It's the community that's behind the tool that makes it powerful. So, I mean, all Slack is just a means to communicate, right? Where we could post charts, we could post setups. Again, if you have Slack, like the community that we have with real life trading, I think is that creates the value for Slack. And that would create the value for you as a trader. So by having access to Slack, even for me, I mean, I've made a lot of money from other, like me being on the mic. I've made a lot of money from other traders in the group because I only have 2 eyes and I have limited time. My day, probably like yours, 24 hours a day, right? I don't get in a 25th hour. So there's only so much I could do in those limited hours and only so much that I could look at. But we have 550 members, something like that, 600 members, whatever the case. That's a lot more eyeballs in the market. So being a part of a community that they understand the type of system that you're trading. It might not be the same setup that you're trading, but they'll post. I could probably pull up Slack now. There's probably a couple posts in there of people that after the market closed, people looking for setups, and they might say, "Oh yeah, this fits my plan. I'm going to enter here. This is my stop." By posting your chart in there, you're number one, probably going to be able to get some feedback from other people like, hey, just be careful because you have that 200 EMA coming in on it. That's going to act as some type of resistance. Watch out for that pivot, whatever the case. So you'll get instant feedback before you get in trade. And that alone could help save you some of those losses. But 2 is if you're looking at somebody else's chart, then you start to, it's not so much the trade that they're taking, but just trying to figure out why they're taking that trade. And with Slack, you could just ask them like, hey, I don't see it. What do you see? And just what they're looking for might be something that you're like, that might be an aha moment for you. And you're like, you know what? I kind of like that. That makes sense. That clicks. And now you don't have to change your plan correctly, like completely, but you could take that partial move or play or thing that he might be looking at, or she might be looking at, and enter that into your plan and then go back and back trade with that new setup. If I was to look at this extra feature or extra volume candle or extra XYZ, you're improving on what you're already doing. So I think Slack with the community behind it is enormously powerful because you just have a lot more, like there'll be stocks that just wouldn't have crossed my screen in the morning that other traders are watching just because it fits in their wheelhouse. And you're like, hey, check out the gap on Airbnb today. And I'm like, oh, all right, I'll check it out. I'm like, yeah, I love this. I love the gap. I love where it's opening. It might not be a stock I would have ever looked at on my own personal trades, but I'm able to trade my strategy on that setup. So I might not just jump in at their numbers, but I'm going to wait to see if it develops the patterns that I particularly look for. So it's a good way to really learn and understand like what the mentality of other people are. And we all know we're looking for the same type of setups as far as we're all using the R system, we're all using that. And it doesn't matter if somebody in the community has a $5,000 R like Jeremy, or somebody has a $20 R. We could read each other's charts. We know where our stops are, our entries, our targets, and a 2.4 R for somebody with a $5,000 R or $20 R. It's still the same on the chart. Nothing changes with that. Only the value of the R changes. So I think it's good. And I think we talked about this a little bit last episode. I'm not sure if this one aired, Tracy, but having in the market, it is, if you want to find out who you are as a person, trade the market, because it will tell you quickly what kind of person you are. It will point out your weaknesses and your flaws quicker than any possible thing you could do in life, because you're sitting at home and you're fighting your own brain, right? Like most of the reason we mess up as traders is because of ourselves, just stepping on our own feet. So everybody does have a bad day or a bad month in the market, bad week in the market. They happen. But with the community that we have with real life trading, we have people say, look, I had a bad day. I lost 2 R's. I lost 5 R's. I broke my plan. I did this. And the community is not there to shoot somebody down. It's to build them up. So I tell Tracy this all the time, like in my group of friends outside of real life trading, like nobody cares about the stock market, right? Like I'm like, hey, you guys see the Apple chart? And I'm like, shut up, have a beer, like settle down. But in real life trading, it's a whole bunch of like-minded people that get very excited about the markets the same way. And if you have a bad day, guys, I don't know what happened. I got in my own head. I broke my plan. I lost more R's than I thought. And it's a much better way to deal with as a group of people that have also run into the same situations that you have and being able to get out of it and say, this is the strategy. Just stick to the plan, get back on focus. Did you have a bad day? Did you have a fight with the wife? Did you run over a squirrel on the way to the office today? Like what is driving, like, why was your head not in the game the same way that it normally is, right? So it's a good way just to get back on track and kind of build each other up as well.
I agree. And I personally am not here for the trade ideas. That's not what I am here in Slack for. I actually find that I trade worse when I trade other people's setups. I just seem to navigate and select all the losing trades when other people are trading them. That's me, but I'm here 100% because of the support and the ability to also give back to the community. So that's the reason that I'm here. That's the reason that I came back, because I was with real life trading for a while, and then I left, and then I came back, and I came back specifically for the community, 100%.
So in the Slack, is the group, I mean, I guess you joined certain groups, so everybody in real life trading is in the same group or community?
Correct.
Or other people outside have input as well?
No, it's just, yeah. So that's a good question. So with Slack, we have the subscription packages. So we have the day trading room and we have the swing trading room where you can take a bundle all together. Or if you're in a mentor group too, you'll also have Slack access. So as long as you have one of the subscriptions, you get Slack free included with that. Or if you're in like an 8-week mentor program where you have a mentor, you're in a group with 6 other people, and you meet once a week for an hour a week, discuss the setups, go into your plan, discuss what you traded, why you traded it. We'll analyze the trades together, but you'll also have Slack there too. And you have full access to every member in the group. So anybody that we have, like the main news feed that you guys can post things, you can individually message people. So if Brett Glover posts a chart in Slack, you could actually, I don't understand why people I get it. I mean, it's there's a large group of people, and I think human nature is like, you don't want to ask a dumb question. I prefer when people ask questions of anything. There's no dumb question, because that dumb question to them, they're like, that's probably a stupid question, I shouldn't ask. There's probably other people in the group that have the same question and just a little afraid to ask it. But if that's the case, you could just shoot the guy who posted it a message, be like, hey, looks like a good setup, but I don't know why you're taking it. Could you explain it? And this community, like, probably not like any other community out there that I've personally seen, but they're all willing to help. They'll take their time out of their day to help you understand the setup. And they get nothing from it, but they know there was a certain point in their trading career where they had the same question, right? And if they would have asked the question, or maybe they did and they got help and that helped take them to the next level. But like, don't be afraid to post in Slack. Like, that's probably one of the greatest tools that we have as far as communicating and learning in real time. So yeah, for 100%. Yeah. If you have a subscription, or you have, if you are in a mentor group, like an 8-week mentor group, you'll have Slack for that duration.
And you will get what you put in to any community. It doesn't matter whether this is a class that you take at a community college, or whether it's in, the community with real life trading. You're going to get what you put in. So the more you interact, the more you engage, the more you're going to get from that engagement. And that's just natural in any kind of environment, right? The other nice thing about the Slack community is we not only have our main rooms, but we break down and have, special interest areas that so if you're an AMD trader, we have like an AMD room that you can jump into, and everybody that's chatting in that room is talking about AMD. Or it could be a Tesla room, it could be a back trading room, it could be all sorts of different things that we have that are specialized. So you can really focus in on your niche and find your people that have similar interests than you.
So when there's people like me that have the limited amount of funds that I'm actively going to use for trading right now, do you recommend things like subscribing to Slack, or get a mentor, or where should I budget that money first?
Yep. So I would say, and I just had a trader not too long ago, actually a couple of weeks ago. He had a limited account too, and he's like, do you think and he wasn't a member yet, I think he's a member now, but he's like, do you think if I join real life trading, will I pay for my membership with this profits from my trading account? And I'm like, no, you're not, because it's a limited account. You will one day, once the account's bigger and your R's are bigger, but you're having a small R. So you would need, and then not only that, but now you also want to pay for bills, and you want to continue to grow the account and stuff like that. It just real, unless you're hitting a home run trade with options and cowboying things, which is not really what we do at real life trading, then no. I said, if you want to join with your account size, have the funds come, like have a plan where the funds are coming from your current job or something like that. Make sure that you can afford it, because it's going to, you don't want to trade just to pay the fees of a subscription to anywhere, right? You're trading to make money and grow the account. Like if you have $1,000 account now, it's not, your goal is not to have $1,000 account in 6 months or a year, right? Maybe you have a $20,000 account by then. Maybe you have additional income after you learn and you're getting more comfortable, where you have extra money. You're like, okay, now let me put some more money into the account, or whatever the case. But I would say, don't look for, like, same thing, if you go to school anywhere, I mean, do you expect to have the job as you're in school, or do you expect to go to school, pay for school, and then get the job after? So typically that's what I would say. But for you right now, well, one, you're limited on your daily access to what you could actually be in front of the computer during the day. So I would say most likely for you, probably for now, I'd start with the swing trader room or the mentor groups. And that would be the two options. That's just, honestly, that's a personal call on your part for what you want to do. I would say both would be helpful. The mentor group, Tracy, I don't know what your opinion would be on this, but I think the mentor group, because you're in a group with 6 people that are all kind of learning the same type of stuff, one, you get Slack access. We build a group for those 6 people, plus you have access to the feed and all that stuff as well. But you have the mentor there where you could actually go through your own and like analyze with the group your own setups as to what you're taking. You'll learn what that mentor, what he looks for in when he's trading the market. If you have questions, it's easy. You're not getting lost in a crowd. You're there with, like, again, 6 other people, and you might be looking at somebody else's chart and analyzing a setup or understanding why they took something or why it worked or why it didn't work. And I think that would be a little bit more hands-on approach out of the gate, as you're getting more comfortable with the markets. And then again, you have a choice. I mean, you could stick with $1,000 account. You could build it slowly. That's what I did with the $5,000 account. Like, I knew I wasn't going to get rich from a $5,000 account, but I also knew I have a lot of time. Like I literally have till I die to make money in the market. The only thing that could stop me from making money is when I'm 6 feet on the ground. That's it. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I have ample amount of time to learn and make money by trading the markets. So for me, understanding and getting more handheld type of approach, they didn't have mentorship back in the day. I wish they did, because I would have definitely, I would have probably progressed my trading by a rapid pace if that was the case. But yeah, I would personally, my suggestion would be to really take advantage of the mentor groups as opposed to the swing trade room off the bat.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to push it even a little bit further, because I personally think that for new traders, I really like what Johnny Guarco is doing for his mentor group. So I know it's kind of marketed right now to the military groups, but I would recommend it for any beginner that's learning to trade, because he does some live hand holding as well during that mentorship. You get a lot in the value. It's more money than the average mentor group, but it's well worth it because of everything that's encompassed in it. It gives you a really good footing. And then from there, you can step into another mentorship with one of the other mentors that specialize in more things and have more advanced strategies and techniques, and can really take you to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
With my level of funds, and do you think I should stick with lower priced tickers and do more of them, or does that matter at all?
My opinion is no, it doesn't matter. That's the nice thing about using the R system. Your R is your R is your R. So all that changes is the amount of actual stock, or like the shares that you can actually purchase. So let's say you have a $50 R and you're trading Tesla, and when you put in your entry and your stop, that might get you, say, 3 shares. That's all it gets you when you enter in that trade. But then you go to something like, I don't know, let's say Twitter or something like that, and you put in your entry and your stop, and all of a sudden you can get 800 shares based on that. That's the only difference because of the price, but your R is still your R. So whether you're trading 800 shares or whether you're trading 3 shares, the profitability 2.4 R is still going to get you the same place. So the setup is the setup. I would just stick to quality stocks. Like I said before, things that companies that you're familiar with, companies that you use, companies that you like. That's the best place to stay. Yep.
I've tried to study for some period of time each and every day on this, whether it just be for 15 minutes, in the mornings before I start my day, or on Saturdays sitting in front of the computer for about 2 hours or whatever, and just doing nothing but either studying, practicing, or subscribing to other YouTube channels just to watch how they work and everything. And I'm wondering, obviously they wouldn't have YouTube channels if they weren't just super successful, but would they be teaching me bad habits or putting thoughts in my head that maybe I've been learning the wrong way because this guy made $700,000 in 15 minutes?
So number one, I don't know if you've ever heard before, but anything with like miracle in it generally is not something that is truthful or something that you should be looking into, because there's no quick fixes. There's no fast track to becoming a millionaire. There's no you can hit it by being lucky, but as we've said before, that's through gambling. It's a gamble. It's nobody knows that trade is going to turn out to be the one that makes them $1 million in one trade. It just happens to be that way. It was a gamble, and they over leveraged themselves, and they ended up getting into a position like that. My personal opinion on this is that a lot of new traders, because there's no curriculum that you're actually learning, there's nobody pacing you, you're pacing yourself. A lot of new traders want to get as much information as they possibly can right now and just start making money right now. The problem with that is you go through these stages where it starts to make sense, and then all of a sudden it stops making sense, and then you start to get confused because you get into this state of overstimulated, over information, and you haven't actually given yourself enough time to digest and learn what you've learned. So I actually really encourage new traders to just focus on one thing and get good at it. And then when you're good at it, then you can look for something else to add to it. It's like driving. If you've ever been in a car and remember when you were learning how to drive, if someone told you and put you in a scenario where as you're learning where the gas pedal, where the brake pedal, where the shift is, where all of those things are, and then all of a sudden they started throwing all sorts of different things at you, you get confused. You just couldn't all of a sudden race in Indy as a brand new driver. You'd have to focus on getting some of the basics down and becoming autonomous before you can move on to the next stage and start to learn how to be more of a defensive driver or how to learn how to do specific maneuvers, that type of thing. Because you're not focusing on where the pedal is. You're not focusing on where the brake is. You know where they are. Your body automatically knows how to do that. And that's kind of where the new trader needs to get to before they start to add into their systems, additional stuff. And that's one of the biggest things I see with a lot of traders. They're just learning too much too quickly, and they're forgetting more than they learned. So
yeah. I think with education, especially using the internet, get as much education as you possibly can, but be careful where it comes from. So like, I know you said they probably wouldn't have a YouTube channel unless they're doing very well. Realistically, I could go in and start a YouTube channel on how to fix cars right now, and I couldn't tell you the first thing about a car. I just have no idea. So like I could create it. How many views I get and how many people are using my methods to fix their own cars, that's up to them. But people do put instant credibility behind anything on YouTube. And I've watched those guys where the market opens and they're like, all right, I'm going to hop in this trade and it's going to run 15 cents and I'm over leveraged and all this stuff. And okay, I made $15,000 within 12 minutes. All right, fantastic for that person. But incorporating some of that into your, like if you're a scalper, that information might be very valuable too, right? Where we're not scalpers, we're traders. So we're letting the trade play out a little bit. We're letting the flow of the trade play out a little bit. And they might be on a 1 minute chart trading and you're just more comfortable. I mean, you're on probably a daily chart now, swing trading. But if you're coming into the markets, all right, you might rather be a little more comfortable on a 15-minute chart as a day trader than a 1 minute chart, right? Because you still have to get comfortable now with understanding the setup a little bit quicker. You're also got to get comfortable entering the actual order to the broker. Make sure you're not buying when you should be selling or selling when you should be buying or throwing your stops all over the place. And then you also want to be able to calculate the risk to reward on that trade. So like as quick as possible. So you want to be able to analyze the chart and see where those resistance are. See where if you're going for a 2R or 2.4 or 1.4, whatever the case, you want to make sure that it has room to run above that certain amount. Like there's no real big resistance. So you want to analyze the chart. So given like your 15 minutes on the chart could be life-saving. If you're just getting into day trade world, like you don't have to be on a 3 minute chart. You don't have to be on a 1 minute chart to make money. You can let things play out a little bit. So I would say just be careful of where that, because again, if you're trading and now you're just watching this guy, he's like, I made $15,000 in 12 minutes and you're sitting here, trade a little bit longer time frame and you're like, oh, I made 2 R's and your R is $50. Like I made $100 and I waited a lot longer. Like oftentimes that could be discouraging or depressing, but you also don't know the background. Like you don't know how much money that guy could have a $5 million account and it's all tilted, one way or another. If it's a recording, you don't know if that's his only trade of the day, or he also took 5 other losing trades based on the same strategy and where he actually ends for the day too. So just be careful of kind of letting the outside noise interfere with your own plan. Just try to stick to your strategy. But that being said, on YouTube, there's also a lot of valuable information for sure of people that might trade or use certain setups or indicators or something or volume or things like that. I would be hard pressed to find a video that real life trading hasn't created. So honestly, if you have questions on Elliott Wave or Fibonacci's or volume profiles or candlesticks or sentiment or whatever the case, gaps, you could just type that into YouTube, type real life trading, and I'm pretty positive we have some type of video out there on explaining how to do that. And then within that, it kind of fits into a bigger scope of, and I'm not just saying just only watch real life trading videos, but for me, when I was first learning, I'd go to YouTube and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And I would get one piece of information. And then I'd be like, all right, how do I do this? And I get another piece of information, but they might not be coinciding in the same type of setup that I was doing. I'm just now trying to piece together, where in real life trading, you're looking for, okay, this is this setup explained. And now how does that incorporate with my current plan? Things like that. So it houses it a little bit better as far as the actual full education, as opposed to just piecemealing certain types of setups together.
Yeah.
And like Tracy said, backtrade it, because the more you spend time on that setup, the more you'll know if that will actually work or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things is, Danny, you kind of said it, you don't know what the risk was on that trade either, right? So had that trade worked out, you don't know or had it not worked out, you don't know what they would have lost. They could have been risking, $10,000 to make that $15,000. It reminds me of, I used to work for a casino. I was a cashier. Just during the summer times when we had what's called the P&E, I would work there, and I remember the first time that somebody came and cashed in their chips, and there was like $15,000 or $16,000 worth of chips. And I said, "Oh, hey, congratulations, good job." And I got pulled aside and I was told, "Don't say that to any of the customers that come up. Just cash them in." And the reality is that I didn't know, and I couldn't know, that that's all they had left of their money. They might have lost $30,000 at the table already, and they're cashing in that 15,000 or 16,000 and letting it go. So what Dan said is you don't know what the rest of the story is. You don't know. Yeah, they might have had a $15,000 trade, but they could have lost the last two and they were down 25,000 for the day, right? So it's one of those scenarios that you need to have the whole picture, and I wouldn't put too much credence on it. Back trade, know what your numbers are, and that's what you can perform that way, right? Same with golf. Do you golf?
I try.
You try? Okay. Okay. So, you get this guy that comes out and he hits this shot and he says, "Hey, I can drive 370 kilometers or 370 yards." And you're comparing yourself to him, and you're a new golfer, maybe you're short, maybe you're whatever the reasons might be, but you can't hit that. Maybe you'll never hit that. But if you get out to the driving range and you hit consistently and you get better, you get to know how far your average drive is. So maybe you only drive 300 yards, and that's a good drive for you. So compare yourself to apples to apples. Compare yourself to your own performance and gauge that on whether or not you are doing well or not, right? So by back trading, you have your numbers, you have your performance capabilities. And from there, you're going to be able to know whether or not you're performing better or worse than what you were back trading. And then you can tweak it from there. As you get better and as you become more knowledgeable in the markets, your performance is going to go up and up and up. And you continue to use your own metrics as a gauge of your performance from month to month, day to day. One of my biggest challenges that I had when I first joined the real life trading community was comparing myself to other traders. It made me feel like garbage, because I would see traders that were making 6-7 R in a trade, and it's like, well, I think I'm a pretty good trader. Why can't I make 6 or 7 R's? And then all of a sudden I start trying to perform like they are, not really understanding the story behind it, and criticizing myself and thinking, okay, and it would just tear my whole self-esteem as a trader. It would just tear it apart. And that was me doing all of that. Nobody else was doing that. Nobody was saying anything negative to me. This was me tearing myself apart because I'm comparing myself to other things that I really didn't understand. And again, it wasn't until I understood that, hey, you know what? I am not the Wayne Gretzky of the trading community. I'm the Tracy Ball of the trading community, and that's okay. Right?
I think I just have one more question that, unless I come up with another one between now and then, but when trying to select a mentor, there's so many options on the site. I mean, how do you know which one is the best fit for you?
I would reach out to them. If you're considering any of them, reach out to them. Every single one of us, Dan, I'm sure you would agree, would be willing to sit down for 15 minutes and have a quick conversation with you, just to get a feel for what you're looking for and see if you're a good fit.
Yeah. Each mentor, they do really specialize in different things. So if you go to reallifetrading.com, you click on the little mentor tab, you'll see I think they actually got released today. And if you guys are listening to this on the recording, it's back in January, but once a month we usually release new groups. So you guys could check in. Usually they're around the 15th of every month. We release new groups. But underneath the description, so you'll see the picture of the mentor, you'll see their name, and then underneath you'll see typically what that caters to, what as far as that group. So some of them, like the one I have up there now, it says beginners on it. Johnny, I know, focuses a lot on beginners. Tracy, I think pretty much all levels. All the and then we have like Tony, who deals a lot with credit spreads. So a lot of people that are coming into his groups, they want to just learn more about credit spreads. Falco, I know, covers a lot of options, things like that. So we do have a little description of what that group would be about. I think any of the mentors can pretty much answer any questions that from somebody beginner or somebody a little bit more advanced, but it's just what we actually do with our own strategies of how we play, how we do the setup. And then kind of, we try to gear the groups to certain levels. So like, that's why we put beginner on there, because for me personally, if we have somebody coming in that, if we have 5 people in the group that are brand new to the markets or been trading for 6 months, a year, 18 months even, I'd still probably say you're probably a little bit more beginner. But then we have somebody come in that's been trading for 10 years and they're into options and things like that. And then we want to address everybody in the group. But now if we start getting into more options and more like crazier advanced setups, then I lose the other 5 people. So we do put beginner on there. Obviously, we can't control who wants to sign into whichever group. I mean, they could choose however, but they know and they have an understanding getting in, like, okay, this person's looking for more reversals. This person counts the Elliott waves. This person's designing his group specifically for beginners. And then maybe the next group might be more intermediate or advanced or something like that we might post as. So, but that would be a good way to start. And like Tracy said, just reach out. I mean, any of the at most, I think, Tracy, everybody has their name at reallifetrading.com.
I think so. Part. Yeah, I think so.
Or just shoot me an email if you can't get a hold of them, which is dan@reallifetrading.com. And then if you want me to reach out to that certain mentor, I'll happily be able to do that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but if you do join a mentor group, first step is to do your due diligence. And like I said, reach out if you have questions. But if you do join a mentor group and it's not working for you, do we still offer the move to a different mentor, or how does that work?
Not typically, just because I mean, we'll work with you. It wouldn't be like you're just SOL and you're done. Like if you're like, oh, this is way too advanced or whatever the case, typically it won't be like, we're going to move you to a different group, because they'll max out at 6 people. And then most likely, like pretty much every group is filled before it starts. It's just impossible to move somebody to a different group. But if you want to wait till the new groups release or something like that, and just wait for a brand new group to open that might fit you better, that would probably be something we could look at. But yeah, typically once you're in the group, you don't even for a trader, whether I thought it was too advanced or not, I still try to stick out that group. You do get the recordings of all the groups, so you can watch them at any time. And like things that might not make sense today might make sense 4 months down the road, 3 months down the road. And then you still have the recordings. You can still go back. You still have access to the mentors, shoot them an email, shoot them a message on Slack. Just be like, hey, I'm starting to understand this now. Or in the mentor groups, like I said, there's only 6 people. So if there's something in there, when they start getting into something that's just over your head, just ask. Just say, hey, I'm not following. Could we do it? The other 5 people in the group, they don't care. They don't, because even if it's something they know, seeing it over and over again helps implant it into somebody's head. And then also maybe the way that the moderator explains it might be different than how that they were understanding it, or they might know that it's a bullish engulfing candle, but this moderator might be able to talk a little bit more about kind of like how Tracy did, of what that actually signifies in the candle. And that gives you a better understanding of how that hammer works. And now you could also kind of apply that to other candles too. So I don't think it's a case usually of things are just so overwhelming during the mentorship group that's something that you have to really be hung up on.
Awesome. I know that you said everybody's name at Real Life Trading, and this is the first company ever that I've been able to send an email to, for example, to Jeremy, and he answers. Like within an hour, he answered me the first time I emailed him. And same with you guys. I mean, you say at the end of the podcast, if you have any questions or suggestions, send them to us. And I did, and I just can't tell you how shocked and excited I was that I even got a response. And it turned out to be, very good for me. I've got a lot of good information here. I'm going to go back. Of course, I'm going to listen to the podcast wherever I didn't take notes. I'm going to take more notes, and put your advice into action. I'm just excited to get home tonight and go back and back trade some of these and set up my plan and define some of the things that I didn't define earlier. I mean, I really appreciate all the time y'all have taken with me, and I know it's been quite a bit of time tonight. So I hope I didn't take up too much of yours, but this has been very exciting for me, and I really appreciate it.
That's good, Mike. It was an absolute pleasure. And it doesn't stop here. So please reach out anytime if you have any questions. Dan at reallifetrading.com or Tracy at reallifetrading.com. And no, it's been a pleasure. So
yeah, I honestly, I mean, you took a huge step in the right direction, Mike, because a lot of people will have questions, or they're like, hey, it'd be cool on the podcast. We listen to a coaching. We have questions. Other people have sent us recommendations. Me and Tracy, I don't think we've rejected an idea yet. We're like, yeah, cool. If people want to hear it, we'll cover. Because what me and Tracy could sit down and think people want to hear and what would help them might not be the case at all. So the only way we get the feedback, like you sending us an email, hey, I think the coaching is going to be good. But also I go to Tracy, I was like, all right, why don't we just have Mike on? Like, just bring him on and we'll do a coaching with him. And that could have went one or two ways. Like that could have been like, no, I'm just too intimidated, don't want to do it. And it's not easy to get onto a podcast, especially coming into as a beginner trader and just trying to really understand the markets. I think the potential intimidation could be there for a lot of traders. So I appreciate you coming on, dealing with, I mean, you got good value from Tracy. I just hear, I blabble all day. I don't know what I say,
no,
but at least you got something from Tracy, which is good. But no, I appreciate you coming on, and then we'll have to check back in. I think Tracy would be appropriate. So like, don't hesitate to not email us. Say, hey, this is what I changed on my plan. Let us know. Coaching doesn't stop here. Like this, like I wish in a 2-hour session or 30-minute segments, if you're listening to the podcast, that we could completely change somebody's entire outlook for the market and just turn anybody into a successful trader. But the market changes. You could have a bull market, bear market, could chop sideways, could be very choppy. Certain plans work in different environments, and the struggles that people might have today might not be tomorrow, but maybe a new certain setup comes, or new struggle, a new thought process, or bad habits start forming, things like that could always come into somebody's trade. So anytime you're with coaching, that would be one of the questions. Like after the coaching session or the moderating classes, I mean, is it done? Like, is that it? Most companies will probably, yes, you pay to get into a group. They're happy, they made money, whatever the case. Anything you learn in a group, great, but you're on your own. Fly, go fly now. Ask the moderator, hey, if I have questions after the group, like, is this something that we could talk? Like, you have access to Slack, you could literally message your mentor at any time. You can shoot him an email. One of the things I've seen on YouTube that got me, like, I was like, all right, Jeremy's the real deal. He was teaching a class and it was on YouTube, so it was like, it wasn't live. And he goes, yeah, if anybody needs me, here's my cell phone number. And I was like, this guy just gave his cell phone out there to the world. But think about how many other people do that. Like everybody that coaches, the mentors, Jeremy himself, Matt DeLong, everybody's so accessible that I mean, we have nothing to hide as far as what we do. Like we're all of us, we're trading full time, so we know it's possible. We've all been on the journey. We've all had the struggles, the same struggles as anybody else. And just being able to hopefully help people get over those hurdles and proceed and actually be successful in the market. That's our goal. So we hope you got something from it, from this one. And like I said, we can't wait to check in a few months.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because Dan, that's exactly how I got into real life trading as well. I was watching Jeremy on I think a summit of some sort, and he said, here's my cell number. I dare you to text me. That's what he said to everybody. I dare you to text me. So I texted him, said, hey, I got a call within like 10 minutes, a phone call, and him and I chatted for about an hour. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So,
but if anybody's not ever taken the beginner's course, and when I first logged on to it, Jeremy has this personality on the screen that just keeps you interested the whole time. And that's why it's not hard to go back and take it again, because you still stay so involved in the class, even though you've already done it once. And so perfect person to do that class.
Yep, absolutely. I think Dan just did it, didn't you? You just redid the beginner
I just saw
class?
the beginner class. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
now I'm gonna take it
we're
again.
reteaching a lot of the classes live just because it's a different experience. So if you watch the videos, it's great. You'll get the information, but the one thing you can't do is ask real-time questions unless you were already in that class. So again, it's the same thing I said before with me and Tracy. Like we think we know what people want to hear, but unless we get the feedback. So there could be parts of the video that a trader is just watching and he's like, all right, it makes sense. And then Jeremy might say something and gloss over it. It's not Jeremy's fault. It's just something that he's used to saying or seeing or thinks the other members in that chat are familiar. But then when the video comes out, maybe somebody brand new or different perspective of the market might have questions. And you're like, all right, who do I ask? I mean, obviously he leaves his cell phone number in the video, so probably just call Jeremy or shoot us an email or whatever the case. But if you're in as it's being taught and we start to see more questions come into the chat during the live classes, we're like, all right, you know what? We had a full agenda of what we're looking to get to, but maybe let's hold up, let's get more into detail in this, and let's help everybody really understand the concept that we're trying to go over. So yeah, the real classes, and I will say Jeremy's energy, it's not fake. Like it's so like 24 hours a day. That guy just wakes up on, I don't know, I need like 30 monsters to catch up to him. But I was had the same feeling. I was watching that beginner video. I was like, how is he so amped up the entire time? And then I taught that class and I was like, oh, I'm so amped up the entire time because you're literally like, you just have a perspective where you're like, I'm actually being able to help enrich other people's lives. Like people are going to be making so much money from the knowledge that is put into the course that how do you not be amped up? Like, how do you not? So but the classes are addicting and it's good. The way he teaches, his style of teaching, it definitely helped keep me in the markets and really understand the markets a lot better as well. Cool.
And how many CEOs are that accessible to the people around them? I mean,
none that I could think of.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Mike, like I said, it's been a pleasure, and reach out anytime.
I will. Thank you both so much.
All right.
Yep. Thanks, Mike.
You take care. All right. And that concludes part 4 of our coaching session with Mike Pickett. That was a really great session. I mean, that was 2 hours. I think he got a lot out of it. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, that was incredible going through. Like I said, we haven't done a format like this ever on the Real Life Pivot podcast. So to be able to really spend the time, a lot of times when you're listening to anything, you have segments of 30 minutes here or there. But by going through and being able to sit with somebody for 2 hours and really being able to be as transparent as possible as far as how we coach, going into the psyche of a trader. I mean, that was one trader. There's a whole bunch of different styles out there, different size accounts, different experience. So we could definitely go through that with each person, and we kind of learned something new as far as more of a directive as to which way to really help enhance and increase somebody's P&L at the end of the year. So I think the information from this episode and the previous 3 were outstanding to go through a review, and I know I'm going to review those as well for myself too. But if this is the first episode you guys caught of this 4-part series, you only caught the tail end of it. So make sure you go back to reallifetrading.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll see a link for our RLT Pivot podcast. You can catch all 4 of these episodes, plus many, many more. And you will have the opportunity, also the very first episode of this series. Tracy, you might want to get into this again, actually. We do have a full contest. Tracy, do you want to cover it one more time for us?
Sure, absolutely. So what we're going to do for the rest of the year actually is every month or every couple months, we're going to be providing a challenge for you guys. And once you submit, we'll give you a deadline each time for when those submissions need to be in. And this month's submission or this month's challenge is actually to complete a trading plan. So you need to create a trading plan, submit it to us along with your reasons why you trade. And that needs to be submitted to us before the end of March. Now, what we're going to do with that is we're going to draw a name from that. We'll provide feedback to whoever the winner is on their trading plan, and we'll start helping you move along and progress that way. But that name also gets put into a draw for the end of the year. And once we get all the competitions done for the year, we're going to draw from that pool, and whoever the winner is gets another 2-hour session with Dan and I. And that's the prize. So I think it's pretty exciting. I think it's good. And yeah,
And
So that's-
first mission, first task, for you guys entering the contest, you do have to submit an email. You have to the end of March, so we have a full month from this point of you guys listening to this, where you just have to submit to us a trading plan that you guys have built. And again, going through the last 4 sessions with Mike, that should help to point to at least the areas of importance for your trading plan. And then also in that email, submit to us the why. In episode 1, we blatantly asked Mike, what's your why for trading? It's very important to have that why, so we want that attached to that trading plan as well when you guys submit it. I will be fully honest, you guys are going to be competing with me. I'm entering the contest. I just want a good coaching session with Tracy as well. So that is the prize, though. For whoever at the end of the year we draw the name, you will get a coaching session with myself and Tracy Ball. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun throughout the course of 2022.
Absolutely. And Dan, just to say, because you and I have never coached together before, and it was a pleasure. So it was nice working with you and coaching Mike together.
Do it again for the next winner of this contest. I'm pumped. I'm excited.
Absolutely. All right. We'll catch you guys next time on the Pivot Podcast. Cheers.